She never imagined that 5 minutes could change anything. To her, 5 minutes was hardly a moment. It was the time it took to warm a cup of tea, reply to a quick text, or find a misplaced key. It was nothing, really. That was exactly why Sara wasn't too worried when she decided to step out quickly to pick up a package from the small shop near her street. It was early evening, and the sky had turned a soft mix of blue and fading sunlight. The air was warm, peaceful, and filled with the kind of quiet that makes people feel safe without thinking too much. She grabbed her car keys, slipped on her sandals, and told herself she would be back before her mother even noticed she had left. Her mother had been in the kitchen, preparing dinner, while the smell of fried onions drifted through the house. As Sara walked past the door, her mother called out, asking where she was going. "Just down the road," Sara had said casually. "Just 5 minutes." Her mother didn't argue, because it seemed harmless. Nothing bad happens in just 5 minutes, right? That was what everyone always believed. Sara got into her small silver car, the one her father had given her last year. She loved that car. It wasn't fancy, but it carried memories of long drives with her friends, quiet moments when she sat inside listening to her favorite songs, and the sense of freedom that came with being able to go anywhere on her own. She closed the door, turned the key, and the engine rumbled to life. She didn't bother fastening her seatbelt immediately. She was only going a short distance. She would buckle it once she reached the main road, she told herself, but she never got the chance. As she pulled out of the driveway, she noticed her phone buzzing beside her. The screen lit up with a message from her cousin asking if she was still coming to the family dinner later that night. Sara smiled softly. She picked up the phone for just a second, planning to reply at the next red light. She placed it back on the passenger seat and tried to focus on the road, but the message lingered in her mind as she drove. The streets were not busy, but they also weren't empty. A few children were playing cricket near a gate, their laughter rising and falling like little bursts of song. A man on a bicycle rode slowly ahead of her, carefully balancing a large bag of groceries. A rickshaw moved along the opposite side, its bright lights flickering in the early dusk. Everything felt calm, ordinary. It was exactly the kind of evening when people believed accidents simply could not happen. Sara drove slowly at first, feeling comfortable and confident. She hummed to the music playing softly through the speakers. Her window was half open, allowing the warm breeze to brush against her face. She felt light, relaxed, almost dreamy. It was only a 5-minute trip, and she knew the route better than the back of her hand. She had driven it so many times that her mind did not feel the need to stay fully alert. As she approached a small turn, her phone buzzed again. This time, it wasn't just one notification, but several in a row, the sound repeating sharply, almost insisting on her attention. Without thinking much, Sara glanced at the screen. It was a harmless glance, barely a second long, but sometimes that is all it takes for life to shift in a direction no one expects. In that brief moment of distraction, she didn't notice the car coming from the opposite side. It was a dark-colored sedan, moving faster than it should have been on such a narrow road. The driver seemed to be in a hurry, perhaps trying to get home before the evening rush. Both drivers assumed the road was clear. Both drivers trusted the silence. Both believed nothing dangerous could happen so close to home. Sara's glance at the phone turned into a half-second of confusion. The messages kept appearing, and her eyes flicked downward for just a bit longer than she planned. When she looked up again, everything happened at once. The sedan was now directly in front of her, far too close for comfort. She gasped and jerked the steering wheel to the left, her heart slamming inside her chest. The tires screamed against the asphalt. The car swerved sharply, and Sara felt her breath catch in her throat. The world tilted. The sky seemed to drop low. The road blurred into a streak of gray. For a moment, everything felt weightless, as if time itself hung by a single thread. She didn't feel pain only shocked the sudden, sinking realization that she had lost control. Her car skidded towards the edge of the road, where a row of old trees lined the sidewalk. She tried to brake, but her foot slipped. Panic rushed through her body like a cold wave. She cried out instinctively, but the noise of the impact swallowed her voice. The car hit the side of a tree with a heavy, crushing thud that echoed through the quiet street. The sound startled the nearby children, who stopped their game in confusion. A shopkeeper across the road turned his head sharply, trying to understand what had happened. The bicyclist swerved in surprise, nearly losing his balance. Everything froze for a moment before reality rushed back in loud, uneven breaths. Inside the car, Sara sat trembling. The impact had jolted her hard, sending her forward against the steering wheel. She felt dazed, as if she had been shaken awake from a terrible dream. Her hands shook uncontrollably, and her heartbeat felt painfully loud in her ears. She could still breathe, but her chest felt tight, as if something heavy rested on it. A ringing sound filled her head, drowning out the world around her. Her phone had fallen onto the floor, still buzzing faintly. Her mind tried to make sense of what had happened, but everything felt tangled. She blinked several times, and her vision slowly regained clarity. She touched her forehead and felt a dull ache where she had hit the wheel. Tears rose to her eyes, not from pain, but from the overwhelming fear that swept through her. People nearby began to approach. The children ran to call an adult. The shopkeeper hurried toward the car, waving to others for help. A few passers-by stopped their motorbikes and rushed over. The bicyclist who had avoided the collision leaned his bike against a wall and joined the crowd. Voices grew louder, filled with shock and worry. "Are you okay?" Someone called out as they reached the window. "Can you hear us?" Sara nodded weakly, but couldn't form words. Her throat felt tight, and her breath came unevenly, almost in sobs. A middle-aged man carefully opened the driver's door and helped her unbuckle the seatbelt she had never put on. She realized that mistake too late, and regret washed over her like a heavy storm. They guided her out of the car gently, supporting her as she tried to steady her legs. She felt dizzy, but she could walk. Her eyes searched for something familiar, something safe. In the distance, she saw the sky darkening as evening settled in, and the soft orange glow of the streetlight flickered to life. Someone handed her a bottle of water, and she held it with trembling fingers. She took small sips, trying to calm herself. The reality of what had almost happened began to sink deeper, and tears finally broke free from her eyes. She wasn't crying because of the accident alone. She was crying because of the sudden, terrifying awareness that things could have ended very differently. She could have been seriously hurt. She could have hurt someone else. Everything could have changed forever all in a moment she thought was harmless. A woman nearby placed a comforting hand on her shoulder and told her to breathe slowly. A few people tried calling her family, but Sara managed to take the phone and dial her mother's number herself. Her voice cracked when she spoke. "Amy, can you come? Please?" Her mother's voice tensed immediately. "What happened? Are you hurt? Where are you?" "I'm okay, I think." "Just come quickly," Sara whispered, her tears flowing again. Within minutes, her mother arrived, rushing toward her with worry etched onto her face. She pulled Sara into her arms and held her tightly. Sara closed her eyes and leaned into the familiar comfort, feeling the weight of fear melt a little, replaced by the relief of safety. Her mother checked her carefully, touching her face and arms as if to make sure she truly was standing there. Then she looked at the damaged car, the gathered crowd, and the tree that had stopped the vehicle from going any farther. She understood instantly that the incident had been dangerous, far more dangerous than the soft trembling of her daughter suggested. They thanked the people who had helped. Slowly, the crowd began to disperse as the neighborhood returned to its evening rhythm. The shopkeeper said he was glad she was safe. The bicyclist reminded her gently to drive slowly next time. The children stared with wide eyes before going back to their game, no longer laughing as loudly as before. On the way home, Sara walked beside her mother, feeling smaller than she had in years. She kept replaying the moment over and over in her mind, the glance at the phone, the sudden appearance of the other car, the loss of control, the impact. It all felt unreal, like a warning she hadn't known she needed. At home, her father arrived shortly after hearing the news. He wasn't angry, just relieved she was safe. He held her hand and told her that cars are not dangerous by themselves. People simply forget how quickly danger can appear when we are careless. His calm words stung her heart more than anger ever could, because she knew he was right. That night, long after the house became quiet, Sara sat alone in her room, staring at her hands. They still trembled slightly, the memory of fear not ready to fade yet. She realized how close she had come to changing her whole life because of one careless moment. She had always thought accidents happened because of big mistakes, speeding, driving in storms, reckless choices. She never believed something so small, so simple, could cause such a frightening experience. She remembered her own words before leaving the house. Just 5 minutes. Now she understood the truth. 5 minutes is enough time for life to take an unexpected turn. 5 minutes is enough to make a mistake. 5 minutes is enough for danger to strike. And 5 minutes is more than enough to regret a decision forever. As she finally lay down to sleep, a quiet promise formed in her heart. She would never again underestimate those tiny moments that feel too small to matter. She would fasten her seatbelt, keep her eyes on the road, ignore her phone, and treat even the shortest drive with the respect it deserved. Because she had learned something important, something she would carry with her for the rest of her life. The lesson was simple but strong. Even a few minutes can change everything. Never let comfort or carelessness guide your choices on the road. Safety takes only a moment, but regret can last a lifetime.